couldn't give a shit.
I think Chris Eubank's a bit too big.
I'm not going to go, irrespective of being invited by Turkey al-Sheikh, because it makes me a hypocrite. I've been sitting there saying I don't like this fight.
When you get to 35, things start to slow down. Everything starts to go wrong with boxing.
Former pro boxer and analyst Carl Froch revealed that during his meeting with Turkey al-Sheikh, the Saudi sports promoter expressed that a fight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. was high on his wish list and something he was eager to make happen. Froch noted that the bout is tentatively expected to take place in London on April 26, with the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as the likely venue. However, he acknowledged that no official announcement has been made yet, so the date and details remain subject to change.
Last week I had a sit down with Turkey al-Sheikh himself. Got the exclusive. That's what we do here on Froch on Fighting. We get the exclusives. And he did say to me that this is one of his fights he wants to happen. It's on his wish list. So it's looking like it's going to happen in London, because that's what he said, which is great for the fans, and it's going to happen in April. Now at the time of this recording, it's not been officially announced, but it's looking likely to be April 26th at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Carl Froch shared his enthusiasm for the potential fight between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., attributing his interest to the storied rivalry between their fathers, Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. Froch recalled how Benn and Eubank were two of the biggest names in boxing during the 90s, with their fights drawing enormous attention, including television audiences of 14 to 15 million viewers. Reflecting on their history, Froch noted that the two legends faced off twice, with Eubank winning the first bout and the rematch ending in a draw, leaving Eubank Sr. with the bragging rights in their iconic rivalry. Talking about Nigel and Eubank Sr., Froch stated, probably one of the biggest rivalries in British boxing.
Obviously, Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn, back in the 90s, big names, massive names on terrestrial television, probably drew about 14, 15 million views on standard television. Do we call it standard, linear, terrestrial? Everybody was watching. They had two fights. The first one was a win by Chris Eubank. Second one was a draw. So Eubank has probably got the bragging rights, but the fact that they've got massive history and a bit of beef from back in the day, because it was a genuine rivalry.
Moreover, Carl Froch admitted that while he is interested in seeing the fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, his intrigue is largely driven by the history between their fathers. Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. Froch acknowledged that beyond the legacy factor, there is not much at stake in this bout. While clarifying that he does not want to dampen enthusiasm for the fight, Froch emphasized that it lacks significant implications in terms of titles or rankings.
How interested am I in it? I've got to be honest, I want to see the fight. The history of the fathers makes me more interested in it, I've got to be honest, but what's at stake? I don't want to pour any cold water on it, but there's not much at stake. Obviously, Chris Eubank Jr. has already been beaten. He lost to Billy Joe in a close fight that actually I thought he could have won.
Froch noted the contrasting trajectories of Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn heading into their potential fight. He highlighted that while Eubank Jr. has lost 3 fights in his career, including a recent defeat to Liam Smith before avenging it in a rematch, his record is no longer unbeaten. In contrast, Conor Benn remains undefeated and is working to rebuild his reputation following the controversy surrounding his failed drug test.
Fighters getting in the ring ill-prepared and not right. It's not good for boxing, but Eubank Jr. corrected that bad loss against Liam Smith, but he still has lost. So with them 3 losses on his record, it's took the edge off the fight. I mean, if he was unbeaten, or if he didn't lose in such a manner to Liam Smith, I'd say this fight's a little bit more interesting than what it is. But Conor Benn is unbeaten, and Conor Benn's on the climb back since failing that drug test.
Reflecting on the initial excitement surrounding this matchup in October 2022 when it was originally scheduled, while working with BBC Radio 5 Live in London at the time, he recalled how the fight was cancelled at the last minute, with the news breaking to him via his producer. Froch shared his anticipation for the bout back then, expressing his renewed interest in finally seeing it materialize.
I was in London in October 2022, ready to see this fight then. I drove down there, I was working for BBC 5 Live Radio, and I got the news. I got the news off the producer. This fight has just been cancelled. Conor Benn has failed a drugs test. I'm like, oh no, what is going off? So I was looking forward to that fight. What's that, 2, getting on for 3? Well, just over 2 years ago, that fight was going to happen. And since then, Eubank Jr. has been been beat.
Carl Frosch emphasized the critical role age plays in a boxer's career, noting that physical performance naturally begins to decline as fighters approach their mid-30s. He explained that at 35, reflexes start to slow down and testosterone levels drop, making it harder to maintain peak performance. Frosch highlighted that, as a natural part of human biology, most athletes experience a decline unless they resort to performance-enhancing substances. Frosch stated, "I just think Eubank Jr. probably has had better days behind him than what are in front of him. Conor Benn, what's he done for 2 years? He hasn't done much, has he?"
When you get to 35, things start to slow down. Everything starts to go wrong with boxing. Your reflexes go, your speed goes, your energy levels start to reduce, your testosterone levels drop. So as a natural human being, unless you're juicing, you start to go on the decline.
Manager and promoter Frank Warren shared his thoughts on the potential matchup between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., stating that it is a fight that has garnered significant interest for a variety of reasons. He acknowledged the controversy surrounding its previous cancellation due to widely publicized issues, as well as the historical significance of the rivalry between their fathers, Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr., two of Britain's most iconic boxers. Warren expressed confidence that the public will buy into the fight, as its legacy, combined with the controversies, makes it a compelling spectacle for boxing fans.
Would you watch it?
Yeah, I'd watch it. I'm in the boxing business.
Fair enough. Big fight that has got over the line over the last week or so is Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. Obviously nearly got over the line 2.5 years ago and fell out 2 days before the fight. We pray that doesn't happen again. What do you make of the news that that's now going ahead April in London?
Well, it's a fight that everybody's had a lot of interest in for various reasons. Originally, it was going on in, was it in O2? Was it? I can't remember where.
Yeah, it was the O2.
Before it got postponed for well-publicised reasons. Been a lot of controversy the last 2 years. Obviously, their fathers are very famous British boxers. Again, people will buy into it and they'll watch it, and it's got a lot of controversy around it.
Warren stirred debate by downplaying the abilities of Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr., suggesting they are not the best fighters from their region. He asserted that his own fighters, Hamza Shiraz and Denzel Bentley, are superior, and would likely defeat both Benn and Eubank Jr. in the ring. Warren implied that much of the interest in Benn versus Eubank Jr. stems more from the legacies of their fathers rather than their current standing as elite fighters. However, Frank acknowledged that the fight is likely to draw significant attention due to its historical and controversial background.
I think my fighters beat both of them anyway. I think Hamza Shiraz and Denzel Bentley would beat both of them. I don't think they're the best fighters in the area they come from. They are. My two guys who I work with. But it's a fight that, for obvious reasons, everybody will be very, very interested in.
Frank Warren addressed the controversy surrounding Conor Benn's drug test situation, emphasizing that he does not know what transpired behind closed doors. However, he acknowledged that the matter must have been resolved appropriately, as the relevant authorities, including the British Boxing Board of Control, issued Benn's license. Warren highlighted that it is not the role of individuals to determine someone's innocence or guilt regarding drug use, stating that decisions should be left to the regulatory bodies responsible for overseeing the sport. Frank stated, "That's not our job as promoters to police the sport."
I don't know the background to it. I mean, I don't know what happened behind closed doors. What happened behind closed doors happened, but the fact of the matter is, it must be cleared to box because they've said so. They're the ones who issue the right. Border Control issue the licenses, and you can decide whether somebody's innocent or not of what they're doing of drug abuse. And if he's cleared, he's cleared.
Frank Warren dismissed concerns about the weights of Conor Benn and Chris Eubank, suggesting it is irrelevant to him. He bluntly declared that neither fighter stands a chance against his own athletes. Warren doubled down on his provocative stance, confidently asserting that his fighters are superior in every way. He implied that such a match would not only prove his fighters' dominance, but also expose the supposed weaknesses of Benn and Eubank. He stated, "Let's find out who's the best fighter in Essex."
You know, I don't know what Conor's weight's going to be. I mean, he's a welterweight, or is he a light welter? So he's going to be, if there's 10 pounds on a night, it'd be 170. What's Conor going to weigh? I don't know. I have no idea. It's not my business. It's not my business. What do I think about it? I don't think, as I said, either of those guys could beat my guys. I really don't. I want to see the winner of that fight my man. That's what I want to see.
Frank Warren has confirmed that he has initiated legal proceedings against Chris Eubank Jr. for defamation and does not care if it causes distractions for Eubank ahead of his bout with Conor Benn. He stated, controversy sells everything, doesn't it? Whether it's boxing, football, rugby match, and controversy sells your interviews. That's what it's all about. If we sit here all being nice, everybody is lovely. There is no value for you. People are not going to tune in.
Well, as you mentioned, there's no love lost between yourself and Chris Eubank. Is there still a legal issue between the two?
Yeah, I've issued proceedings against him.
Wow. So that could be a distraction for him heading into this fight,
I
potentially.
couldn't give a
And British professional boxer and mixed martial artist Savannah Marshall shared her thoughts on Chris Eubank, suggesting that he might have a size advantage. She pointed out that Eubank seems a bit too big, especially given the lack of clarity surrounding the rehydration clause.
I think Chris Eubank's a bit too big, but we don't have the ins and outs of the rehydration and that sort of thing, or what weight it's at. So I think
It's £10 rehydration.
it's £10 at 160. Yeah, so I think Chris Eubank's a little bit too big.
Former professional boxer and analyst Johnny Nelson expressed his perspective on the situation, emphasizing the need to understand the stance of the British Boxing Board of Control. He noted that, so far, there has been no clear communication from them, and questioned whether signing it off would simply be a way of sweeping the matter under the rug.
I need to understand. I need to understand the position. I need to understand the position of the British Boxing Board of Control. I've not heard anything, and so if they write it off, say sign it off, there you go. So what does that mean? What is that telling us? What is their explanation for this? Because again, it's just pushing things under the carpet.
Johnny Nelson expressed his admiration for Conor Benn, acknowledging him as one of the most talented and rapidly improving fighters in recent years. However, he emphasized that if rules are to be enforced, they must be clearly established and accompanied by proper explanations to ensure transparency and understanding among everyone involved. He asked, stating, "What is happening? What is the Boxing Board of Control saying?"
I rate Conor Benn. I think this guy was probably one of the most talented, fast improving fighters we've ever got going. But if you're going to do a rule, make sure the rule exists and explain to people what's going on.
Commentator Simon Jordan argues that the British Boxing Board of Control is not in a position to issue a license to Conor Benn if requested, but they likely will regardless of public opinion. He highlighted the distinction between being allowed to fight and being officially cleared, emphasizing that these are two entirely different matters.
I think they're quite clear, aren't they? I think they are not in a position, if he applies for a British Boxing Board of Control licence, not to give it. And so as a result of that, they'll give him the licence. And whatever people think about it, and people will run around, without us seeming like we're obsessed, they'll run around and say that he's been cleared. I think that he's being allowed to fight. Being allowed to fight and being cleared are two different things.
Jordan also criticized Eddie Hearn for evading the issue, pointing out that there still has not been a clear resolution to Benn's 2 failed drug tests. He noted that the findings remain hidden behind confidentiality, though it is now evident that Conor Benn has the power to release them to the public. Jordan suspects that Benn is reluctant to do so.
Even Eddie, at his most obtuse, playing hide and seek with himself, knows that there's not been an answer to 2 failed drugs tests. The gift is Conor's to be able to release the findings. They keep on hiding behind confidentiality. We've all now discovered that if you want to, Conor can give permission for the findings to be put into the public domain. I suspect he doesn't want to do that because it won't give you quite the exoneration, but we now have the fight and all that goes with it.
However, Simon Jordan further expressed that he would not attend the fight even if invited by Turki Alalshik, as it would make him a hypocrite given his opposition to the matchup. He stated that he does not support this fight, particularly for Conor Benn, and believes it lacks merit beyond the lineage of their parents. Jordan argued that such family connections should not serve as the blueprint for a fight, dismissing it as the only intriguing aspect of the bout. Simon stated, "I understand the tourist and the casual fan wanting to watch it. I am not gonna go and watch it."
Irrespective of what the objections might be, I'm not going to go, irrespective of being invited by Turki Alalshik, because it makes me a hypocrite. I've been sitting there saying I don't like this fight. I don't like it for Conor Benn. I don't think it. The only interest for me is the lineage of their parents, and I don't think that should be the blueprint for a fight.
Johnny Nelson shared his prediction for the fight, noting that while he initially leaned towards Conor Benn due to his aggressive style, Chris Eubank's approach could prove challenging. Nelson highlighted that Eubank's style demands an opponent to be exceptionally busy to keep up, which could work to his advantage. However, Benn's lack of consistency in delivering performances that apply sustained pressure on opponents makes the matchup extremely balanced. He stated, "Chris, the naturally bigger fighter, the one who has been more consistent in his career, common sense would have to tell you to lean towards him."
Initially, I would have said Conor Benn because of his aggressive style. I think looking at Chris Eubank, I think his style is, you've got to be busier to fight Conor, because otherwise Conor's going to find you. The problem is Conor's not been consistent enough to put on a performance that's going to realistically put Chris under pressure. So again, it makes this fight so even.
Johnny Nelson highlighted that Chris Eubank's advantage lies in his activity level, having stayed busy and faced various opponents in recent times. While Eubank has had setbacks, he has also demonstrated resilience by bouncing back from defeats. In contrast, Conor Benn has shown remarkable improvement with no visible flaws in his performances so far. However, Nelson expressed concern about Benn's inactivity, noting that stepping onto such a significant stage after a prolonged absence adds pressure. For Benn to succeed, he will need to deliver a top-tier performance.
But you know what? The fact that Chris has been busier, he's been out there, he's performed publicly, and we've seen him get turned over, then turned it back round. Conor, we haven't seen any chinks in the armour. We've just seen him improve massively. My worries for him is the fact that he's been inactive. And so he's coming in on a big stage. So he's got to hope, after all this time of inactivity, he produces an A-class performance.
Simon Jordan emphasized that if Conor Benn were to lose, he has the fallback of attributing it to the significant challenge of moving up 2 weight classes. However, for Chris Eubank, the stakes are far higher. Should he lose, there's no safety net. Jordan pointed out that a loss for Eubank could mark the end of his career, leaving him with no viable path forward in boxing. This contrast in circumstances adds another layer of intrigue and pressure to the fight.
If Conor Benn loses, he has, despite the pride of the family name, he has the ability to cite the fact he's gone up 2 weight classes and he can go back down to 147.
Yeah.
If Chris Eubank loses this, he goes nowhere.
Nowhere to go.
His career over. There's a lot on the line for Chris Eubank Jr. because it's at his weight division.
Yeah. Conor Benn, during his appearance on the Ariel Helwani show, shared his thoughts on the upcoming fight, expressing how deeply personal it is to him. While acknowledging the commercial aspects of the bout, he emphasized that this time, it is far more than just business. Benn admitted that he's never felt genuine hatred toward an opponent before, and has never been driven by such spiteful intent to secure a knockout. He also addressed critics of his fighting style, recognizing that some may see things differently, but his mindset heading into this fight is unlike anything he's experienced before.
Yeah, for me, definitely, this is way more personal. It was more commercial before. I mean, it's a massive commercial fight, but it's way more personal. I don't think I've ever felt hatred towards an opponent before. I don't think I've ever wanted to spitefully knock somebody out before. I know people beg to differ with my fighting style, but the reality is I've been through a lot.
Conor Benn shared his perspective on the rivalry, revealing that the cancellation of their previous bout left him deeply affected, particularly because of the way Chris Eubank Jr. carried himself afterward. Benn admitted that Eubank's actions made the situation personal for him. He opened up about his struggles during that time, stating that he was on the brink of suicide and found it difficult to cope, especially as Eubank's remarks, which he claims were untrue, added to his emotional turmoil. Benn emphasized that these experiences have left a lasting impact, making this fight deeply personal for him. He stated, "Without a doubt, I am coming for his head."
So for him to just then carry on the way he did, I took it personally, and I still take it very personally, So, to being on the brink of suicide, to coming through to, having him come out with the remarks he was coming out with, which were lies, all of it's lies. Yeah, I take that very personally.
Benn confidently stated that Chris Eubank Jr.'s thoughts, words, or actions hold no significance to him, as Eubank will undoubtedly feel the pain and consequences when they step into the ring on fight night. Benn's focus remains unwavering as he prepares to back up his words with action.
And ultimately it don't really matter what he thinks or what he says or what he does, because he's gonna feel the pain come come fight night.
Turki Alalshik has been crucial in bringing the fighters to the table, while both Eubank and Benn continue to express their confidence and determination to make the showdown happen. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to give us a like. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this matchup? Drop your opinions in the comments section below. Show some support by subscribing to the channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Share this with a boxing fan, and we'll catch you next time with more exciting updates.